This is the Razer Viper 8K and one of very few mice with an 8000Hz polling rate. Today I want to tell you what 8000Hz is like for gaming, and I also want to give you an unbiased opinion on using it. I've seen many reviews of this and the couple other 8kHz mice that pretty much state that it's unnoticeable and that nothing like this could ever impact your performance in game and other things like that. But a lot of these people aren't the types of people I would expect to notice these kinds of differences. A lot of these people are casual gamers, reviewers, tech tubers, and these same people likely would not be able to tell the difference between 240 and 360Hz monitors. So to give you some background on myself, I've been playing competitive FPS games since I was about 7 years old. Starting with CS 1.6 and Source, I've played 3 international LAN tournaments for Team Fortress 2, which I have 3.5 thousand hours in, which is all community competitive. In Apex Legends I've been Master 2 times, and I've scrimmed and played at tournaments regularly, most notably being a semi-finalist in the EMEA Cup last year. I have 1.5 thousand hours in Apex Legends, 900 on CSGO, and about 300 across all aim trainers. I am by no means as accomplished as veteran players like Imperial Hal, or Tens or Mongrel, but I am very experienced with FPS games, and aiming specifically. And I think this is who this product is for. People who play a lot. These people would have a high refresh rate monitor, high frame rate, focus on improving aim, and if you're somebody like that, you will likely notice this difference a lot. Now, if you're somebody who only sometimes plays competitive games, then this simply is not a change that you would likely notice at all. So let's talk about the mouse first, and then I can get back to the 8kHz discussion. So the build quality is great, the mouse feels very solid whilst being quite lightweight. It features side buttons on both sides, which are great for some people, but I would have liked to see a version with only left side buttons, just to see if the mouse could be any lighter. The clicks feel solid, the coating is really nice actually, the texture is nice and smooth, whilst not attracting fingerprints, and in general the build quality is great. The scroll wheel is responsive enough, but I do wish that it was maybe just a little bit more tactile, but it's still totally fine. The mouse actually comes with really nice PTFE feet by default, which I wish a lot more mice did. This means you don't have to worry too much about replacing the mouse feet. The glide, especially on a glass pad like the UKM Skypad 3.0, is exceptional, and the mouse has a decent cable, but it's really quite bulky. Now from what I've heard, this is because of the 8kHz polling rate, so you don't really have the option to paracord, which is honestly quite a shame because I would have liked to see it with a much thinner cable. Overall the build quality is great and the mouse is very nice to use. I'm not personally a fan of ambidextrous or symmetrical mice, but I do think if you like those kinds of mice, then this is a very safe shape and it lets you hold it however you really want to. Now let's talk about what matters, the polling rate. How impactful is the difference between 1000Hz and 8000Hz? Now to put it simply, and the easiest way to describe it, is that it feels like increasing your in-game frame rate. Now I play on a 300 FPS cap that rarely dips below 240, and using 8kHz makes that feel effectively like gaining another 100 FPS. Turns feel smoother, the image on screen when you turn is a lot clearer too, and in general the entire motion of tracking just feels that much more responsive. Now a lot of people have had issues with 8kHz. I've heard many people say that games have issues with tearing or lack of compatibility or frame drops, but as for myself that has not been the case at all. In the games that I've played with 8kHz, it has worked exceptionally, those being Apex Legends, Overwatch, Valorant, Team Fortress 2, CSGO, AimLab, and Kovacs all worked perfectly, and the increase in polling rate to me at least was very noticeable. Now I do want to clarify I have a very high-end PC, and I do imagine a lot of these issues arise when using a lower spec hardware, specifically a lower clock rate CPU. Now this brings me back to what I was saying before. I believe a higher polling rate will only be impactful or even noticeable by somebody who plays a lot of FPS games at a high competitive level. If you're simply a casual player, or somebody who on occasion plays games competitively, you will likely not notice any difference. But if you're one of the people I believe this technology is designed for, this will feel like a natural progression and an extension of your aim. To myself, it's comparable from upgrading to 144 to 240 or 360Hz monitors. You will subconsciously stop relying heavily on prediction and guesswork and more on actual reactions. Your eyes and brain will have more information to go off and it'll be easier to actually react to what you're doing. You'll at the very minimum need a 240Hz monitor to appreciate these differences, but you will be able to notice not only improvements in the responsiveness and motion tracking, but also in the image clarity as you turn your mouse in-game. These differences are small, but to the right person they are game-changing. Overall, I do think if you are watching this review and you've listened to everything I've said, you will already know if this mouse is for you or not. And in conclusion, the Razer Viper 8K is a really great option, and the 8000Hz polling rate will be a game changer for specific people. And if you're somebody pursuing competitive FPS gaming, or somebody who grinds for high ranks, or even just practices a lot, I recommend this mouse heavily. In the future, I'd love to see 8 kHz in an ergonomic shape, and I hope that more mice and manufacturers develop 8 kHz technology into their mice, because I think an Origin 1X but with 8 kHz would be my dream mouse. Hopefully you found this review useful, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video.